Hello, hello. I am your host, Pat626. What am I the host of? Well, I host Subculture Shock and Subculture Shock Recharge on Twitch. And I've been doing that sort of thing on and off for 10 years now. But first and foremost, I'm just a fan of music. I love it. I love talking about it. I love sharing it. And that makes me that's a professional Fanby. Probably also because I'm a bit of a goober. So, if this is your first time joining me, what's going to happen now is I've got an album that I want you to hear. Specifically, it's the new Unwoman album of my own space and time. I am Queen. And I'm going to play 30 minutes of it, review it, but more importantly, kind of analyze it. Go into the music and especially the lyrics and pick it apart because it is dense and it's incredible. This is obviously going to be a positive review. If you're a hater, you can stop now. Alright, so let's go ahead and get going here. I guess I should make it clear in case you hadn't noticed. This is kind of semi-scripted. But not really. So immediately, we know that we're in for something very different with this album. Now that's always been true with Unwoman. One of the only artists out there focusing mostly on cello, but also then adding a lot of programmed backtracking and really exploring a lot of different genres in the process. And I first discovered her through like her parodies and silly songs and covers, and loved every one of them. But her serious music doesn't, in my opinion, get the attention it deserves, and I'm hoping to help kind of change that. Because this album starts out very differently from what you would expect if you've only heard her covers and her funny songs like Is the Song About Vampires or The Eldritch One, Jolene. The song even starts like very meta. Just saying, did you come to me to hear songs of peace, or do you want to know the truth about this world? And the song is only going to get darker from there. As you can tell with the music now, just how like creepy it is. But that question asked at the beginning tells us exactly what the truth is via the comparison, you know. It ties in with the title, If You Know, You Know, because the question's irrelevant. If you know the truth of the world, you know that songs of peace are fiction. Life is bleak and cold. It even says here, you already know life is one big joke, and your nonchalance is just for show. So it's just that it's a fiction that we tell ourselves to get through the day, so we, maybe without screaming too much. The best we can do is laugh at life and then live through it until we don't, because there's no like happy ending for us here. We just live through it until we don't. But that's only half of the theme of the song and of the album as a whole. There's also, we're desperate for any kind of hope. And there is hope. It's just not hope that our problems are going to be fixed. The only assurance that the narrator can give us is, I'm in the gutter with you. And that's a powerful, if disappointing, statement. No one is standing outside of this hole to pull us out of it. But we can at least survive it together, and together we can make a platform for our children to, as the narrator says, stand upon our backs. So basically the idea here is that our present is fucked, but maybe we can find a way to save the future. Maybe even not for ourselves, but for those who come next. And that's still a pretty big deal. And this album is not going to shy away from how dark things can get, but it is going to not be completely grim dark either. It's going to offer up some other options, or at least some nuggets of hope. So this is the first song that I heard from this album. It was the first single released, and again, different. Like, this is not your traditional like goth or industrial pop song, because we do have pop songs of our own variety, no matter what anyone will tell you. Now this is just kind of odd and jerky, and just demanding that you listen to it, though, and I love that. But it's also this is where I was saying that this album is a dense album. There's a lot going on in this. So I feel like to really understand first, we need to look at one of the lines of the song. This may be a warning or a treasure map, but it's not the territory or the fact. And I have heard the phrase, the map is not the territory, before, but I admit I'd never really explored it, didn't know what it meant. So this leads us to a recurring feature here on Professional Fanby. History music taught me. So in this case, we're going to be learning about this guy right here. Who the heck is that? It's Alfred Korzybski, a mathematician who in 1931 quoted the line, "The map is not the territory." He was referring to how a model of thing is not the thing. In order for a map to be useful, it has to be portable, but in its portability, it loses the details of the location. So no matter how detailed, it will be missing information and thus flawed. Because if it had every single bit of detail and you could just wander through it, it wouldn't be the map anymore, it would be the territory. Only the territory is the territory. A description of a thing is not a thing, is not the thing it describes, although they both have their places, and that's kind of the point that he was trying to make there, and making sure that we don't get lost just believing we know everything just by seeing the description of it. And so each piece of this song deals with this challenge from like a different angle. So the intro repeats of wanting to dance to the beat of someone else's mind. Not just happy with someone else's words or someone's music. The narrator wants to live their experiences as much as possible and not be confined, which is something we're going to get a lot of in this album. They don't want to be kept from reaching out to others or being told to subsist only on their own words or on the words of others. So the first verse then struggled with the concept of settling, something that society has shamed us into dealing with. But the narrator points out that if she loves herself, if she meets her own needs and respects her own desires, she realizes she doesn't have to settle for what she can get. She can explore the territory instead of just reading the map. She can explore it because she's not looking for anyone to necessarily give her anything. She's going to have it herself. So in not expecting anything from anyone, she can explore more easily. We get even more meta in the second verse, which we just heard, as the song itself is a map to all of her feelings and experiences, but it's not the territory of them. The music isn't candy either, if you're willing to dig deep into it, and then the voice gets up deep along with it, and I love that. So in all cases, the key here is cultivation. The idea of cultivating beauty, putting in the work to experience the experiences and to feel the feelings for yourself. And then, leave a trail of petals behind so others can then explore the territory for themselves, but not just read your descriptions, actually enjoy it, live it. And that's another theme that's going to keep building on this, just the idea of, like in this next song here, the idea of music and what is the purpose of music? What do you really do with it if you've got it? And this one, like, this is basically the title song of the record, because the title does appear in it. And Before the King grapples with, like, fame versus message. It's like a companion piece to the idea of candy songs and deep songs in Cultivate. So the narrator has at last appeared before the king and given a chance to sing. And she knows if she wants to capitalize on this opportunity at all, she's going to have to sing through smiling lips and pretend that she doesn't know the world is ending. This is that classic Cassandra idea of, like, she knows the truth. She knows that the world is ending and no one's going to listen to her. And if she wants people to listen to anything she says, then she has to not talk about that. It could be an actual story of a supernatural gift of vision, or this is just a metaphor for being observant and refusing to flinch from uncomfortable truths. It doesn't matter which one. The effect is the same. No one wants what she's selling, because souls are a dime a dozen, and no one really wants these portents of doom here. As we just heard, she's never been aspirational, but her only chance at dignity has been singing and dancing on her knees, kind of slaving along to what others want to hear, only getting scraps for that. So having the chance to sing for royalty, this is it. This is like making it. This is some actual recognition, but it's not for the truths, only for the lies. That's the only way she's going to make it. And the tra-la-las that we hear through this, like, that it's almost mocking her, and the trivialities that, you know, she's having to use to even get this audience. So, like, I'm not comfortable trying to determine whether the artist is referring specifically to themselves without some evidence usually, but I feel like because of what I talked about with some of the stuff that made Unwoman famous in the beginning, I wonder if there's some personal history shining through here, gaining some fame. Is she now trying to determine which way to go? Because ultimately, whether Unwoman is the narrator or not, the narrator realizes she is at least in charge of what she does and how she spends her time. So she has to sing the truth as she knows it. There is death at the door, and all of the tra-la-las in the world are not going to save anyone. And even if no one's going to pay her for these prophecies of doom, she has to sing them because it's the truth. And maybe someone will do something about it. I mean, who knows? And then, so I talked about how Cultivate was the first song that I heard as a single. This was the first one where I was just like, hot, because there's something so entrancingly stressful about that fast part in the background, just going with the nice snapping snare there, though. And this one was another thing that I kind of had to look up, because ultimately I kind of felt like this is a really good statement of how counterculture can feed the system it fights. And so to really get into that, I had to learn something else. Because the first lines, we walk hooded, blinkered by mirrors, in separate voids, convinced we are lone sorcerers. What the heck does blinkered mean? Which leads us to a professional Fanby vocabulary lesson. So, blinkered actually refers to horse blinders. Apparently they're also called blinkers. And so the idea of not being able to see beyond what's right in front of you. So that idea that they are blinkered by mirrors, like they only pay attention to themselves or those like them. They convinced that they have this powerful knowledge, and only they have this powerful knowledge to combat the world. And this is kind of ironic, because by blocking out others, they're kind of depriving themselves of the knowledge, you know, that of other knowledge, and they themselves say that knowledge is power. So they're actually cutting off possibilities in that process. And the idea in the first verse that, like, the rebellion has already been anticipated, and steps have been taken to make sure that they don't actually do any damage. They bite the hand that expects to be bitten. So the division from everyone else is being held down. Everyone else is also being held down by this hand, and their division from that, it only hurts their cause. Now, I don't think this is a condemnation of atypical girls, as much as it's a warning of dividing ourselves. Like that line there, don't give me that line that I'm somehow better. It makes me think of that pickup line of, oh, you're not like other girls. Like, what does that even mean? You're pitting women against each other in order to tell one that they're good? Like, oh my goodness. Why are you causing this sort of competition? But yeah, that is a thing. There's a divide and conquer aspect from the full system. And so, when she lists the qualities of atypical girls, like they take no shit and give them hell. These are some good qualities, but ultimately they're still feeding the system because they're not working with everyone else either. So this idea of atypical girls are typical now, and I'm a typical girl, we're all in this together. We all need to work together. It kind of reminds me of like Jude Doyle's declaration of my feminism will be intersectional or it will be bullshit. But I like this part at the end where it's like, maybe it's okay to be fragile, and maybe we don't all have to be the strongest, because that's what's going on. If it's like, yeah, no, I mean, you're not like other girls. Oh, no, maybe I am, and maybe that's okay. Which is just, you get some of this like strong women or strong minorities or whatever strong music out there that or like strong female characters is another good example, where they just end up putting like they write a woman's character like a man, and that's it. And no, how about everyone is well, maybe we're all just basic witches, and that's okay. Maybe it's okay to be fragile and not be the strongest if that's not who we are. I have a lot to say about this album, and this song is, in my opinion, where Unwoman really like brings out the knife and goes for the throat. Because this is a song is just a song, and I've played a lot of music on this show that could be called, like revolution songs, the idea of standing up to oppression, and this song is like, yeah, but here's the thing. I was told from the very beginning of my life that I need to make this world a better place, but what can one person do besides planting flowers over heaps of toxic waste? Which is such a great line. It's such a fantastic visual, because it also just references the idea that, we talked with the Zvar Machine record about global climate change, and the idea that the majority of the problem that is affecting global climate change is coming from corporations, and every individual could, recycle 100% of their stuff and it wouldn't make nearly as much of a dent. But there's this idea of an individual responsibility and you must do it. And then we just pass that down to the next person, which you'll see in the lines in a bit. But then she twists it to talk about these people writing these revolution songs too, because a song is just a song. It won't till the soil unless it's sung while digging. Then at least can help with it. Which is a concept that is very true and is not explored enough. Here she's pointing out that these people singing these revolution songs are getting paid for it. You're buying this off of them, and maybe they're not doing anything besides singing the song. Just telling you, hey, all right, now it's your turn to go out and change the world. You go survive anyways, even though the world wants to kill you. It's your job now to tell other people that they can be safe. I did my job. I sang a song. And as much as I'm one for inspiration, ow, that's so true. Like the song means nothing if there isn't actions behind it. Like a song is just a song. It doesn't bring upheaval unless it's the gravedigger's hymn, because people died. That's an upheaval in society. Yeah, like song didn't chop heads, guillotine did, and so I feel like there's this gauntlet being thrown down to all of these people singing about the revolution and singing about the societal ills of, okay, yeah, you're getting people's attention, but what are you doing about it? A story about utopia is still just a story unless you write it in blood. Things have to be done. People have to be removed from power, possibly even violently, if we are going to save people, if we are going to save this world. Are you willing to do that, or are you just going to sing about it? And I don't think that I've heard a song with as much bravery, at least in a long time, as that one. And when I see bands that are actually, like, for instance, calling out the head of their label for being a sexual abuser, things like that, I feel like they're actually putting their money where their mouth is, and I want to see more of that. I want to see more people actually trying to make the world a better place without just, singing about it. And I feel like that's another kind of undercurrent of this record, is taking songs that are pretty common in goth albums especially, and going deeper with them, giving them more of a sense of reality. Because like Black Flowers is not a new concept in dark music. It's been there from the very beginning because of the aesthetic of having to do with grieving and mourning. You immediately imagine funerals and black veils and that sort of thing. But normally when you get goth songs about black flowers or black roses, it tends to be like the mystery and power of death, and in some like over traumatized mourning celebration. And that's not what's going on here. This is focusing like on the reflection that comes with grief. You get the idea that the narrator is walking through town, through an area where they were with people they loved, or someone they loved even. It's hard to tell if this is like a relationship or loss of several people. This could be dealing, for instance, with the loneliness of the pandemic. But they're just kind of, she's just kind of going through the motions and kind of realizing, no, these were the moments, and what she's mourning here are the memories, the moments that she had that are gone now, and they just linger in memory, and this feeling of, you know what, I didn't realize just how good that was. I didn't think I'd find it in dive bars and swing sets, but just that idea, because it's so true that love isn't this grand, overarching, just abstract concept. It's this connection of memories that we build with other people. The idea like of rituals with people, like going on dates, and through those dates you build memories, conversations that you had at the swing set at midnight, just between the two of you, pouring your heart out to each other till the sun rises, that sort of thing. And so the black flowers in her hair, the black flowers scatter around as she's wandering the streets of memory. It's the idea that, this is gone, and all she has left, what she's actually mourning, is not realizing how important all these moments were. And that could be really brutal if we're talking about like a breakup that happened because they didn't realize how important these moments were. That's the worst kind, and it's often what happens. And so there's this thing that's happening here that I really want to pay attention to for a second. So the vocals are doing two different sets of lyrics at the same time in fantastic harmonies. This is something you can only do in music, and it works out so well because the same idea kind of almost being had as a discussion with herself, and then it all collides into this line. I always hoped that love would be the answer. Where is my contentment ever after? And this kind of reminds me of like Love in Itself by Depeche Mode, but instead of crying on the dance floor, we're holding back tears as we walk through an empty shopping district in the middle of winter. and it's just so heartrending, and I can't help but listen to it over and over again, even as it brings tears to my eyes. Like, that is such a powerful line. Not even, where's my happily ever after, just my contentment. I thought I'd at least be content with life once I found love, and I didn't even get that. Not all of this album is depressing. I admit, and maybe this says more about me and the state of mind that I'm in right now, that I chose some of the more depressing tracks to do, because they hit me where I am right now. But I haven't even covered the whole thing, because this is actually the last song I'm going to do. But, you know, there's a wonderful tribute to those who walk away from Omelas. There's a wonderful story about, you know, about how people just always think when they're young that they invented the concept, and not realizing that every poet before them has done it. Like, the whole album is filled with raw emotion, both good and bad, and I highly recommend it. But I would be 100% remiss in not doing this, because we've been talking about the pandemic, a never-ending pandemic, and I really feel like this is the song about it. These days are going to leave a mark. What a line to start the song, because yes, and just this idea of just hopeless. Wake me up just every ugly day, just cause we gotta wake up. And for just a second, it sounds like, you know, laying down in the sand and the waves pour over me almost sounds peaceful. But no, that's probably not what's going on, because there's also the line of the pain washes over me. This is not the good kind of waves. This is the wash away all of my words, possibly leave no trace of me waves. And there's an interesting pun going on here too, if we're dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, because yeah, the waves pour over me. Like, we're on the fourth wave now. Welcome to the second year of 14 days to flatten the curve. So there's this feeling of, yeah, the waves are just pouring over us over and over again. It's just not going away. But of course, there's a more obvious metaphor in there for waves, and for what's happening here. This song is very much like, hey now, sing this erosion to me. By the way, I looked for this meme. I looked for this picture over and over again. I could not find it. I had to make it myself. So the internet has failed me. But this idea of, you know, waves, water runs over soil and rock and shapes it. And these days are shaping us. Like she just said, we're being scarred by history. And that is very much true. Like, even if we come out of this, and sometimes it feels like we're never gonna, but even if we do, we're gonna be completely different people. We've had to deal with depression in ways that many of us never have before. You know, the feeling of uselessness, and people asking, hey, are you okay? And you saying, yeah, I'm fine. You're not okay. You're just saying you don't want to. Talking about it's not going to help in this instance. Like, we're still in this monstrous time. Um, and I feel like these two songs there, like in my opinion, just some of the most breathtakingly morose things that I've ever heard. And I mean that as a compliment because I mean I'm a goth fan, but like these two songs especially are going in the playlist alongside like David Bowie's Outside, specifically the song The Motel, and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Where Do We Go Now But Nowhere, as like sad bastard music that I will listen to when I really need to feel sad, but I'm not letting myself, so I need to let that catharsis out. But if I listen to it for too long, bad things will happen, so I have to limit myself to like one run through of the playlist. Like, this whole album is incredible, but make sure you are in a good mood if you start listening to these songs, especially this one over and over again, because it's about being scarred. That's not a fun experience, but it is an experience. It's an experience that so many of us have had, and like she said before, back in Cultivate, Unwoman can't give those experiences to us, but she can lay them out. She can have us see them, and maybe we can cultivate some of those feelings in ourselves if we want to. But no, we can connect to those. We can use the map of her experience to kind of wander around our own territory. Do I feel like this? Do I need help? Do I need to get together with those other people that are in the gutter here? We need to do something. We need to cultivate some beauty. We need to do more than just write songs and sing them. And it's a rare album that can actually not just make me think those thoughts, but I want to enact them. And dear God Almighty, this is a rare album indeed.